Good morning, beloved brothers and sisters, beautiful, beloved soul family, divine family of light, heavenly family, all of the peeps. I'm Geeia Ariati. I'm the code to unlock the matrix, and being guided this morning to discuss a little of an interesting topic and a live transmission or a live education. And the reason that we're doing it live is very specific and very strategic. And I feel like I am here to expose myself, right? We're in the exposure project at the moment. So I'm going to expose myself a little deeper. You might have seen some of my exposure transmissions before around the Anunnaki gods and the goddess Isis and the truth of history and different things. And it is quite important for these exposures when they're guided to be expressed and what they bring. But if we expose ourselves too soon, it can put ourselves in misunderstanding, as well as if we expose ourselves, we could be, before we are ready, at the effect of external agendas. So I'm going to expose a aspect of myself that I know about, and people that have directly journeyed with me know about, and it's my relentlessness. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that. But first of all, I'm just going to guide everyone into this space, into this receiving, in the form of just taking a couple of deep breaths to alchemize. You might feel a lot in this transmission because there's a lot of frequency in my body at the moment. There's a lot of frequency in this home that I am in at the moment. You're entering a portal right now, and this frequency and this portal has been created very specifically for some of the things that I'm going to be talking about today, which is going to be very multidimensional in the service to the 144, the bringers of change and beyond. And I'm going to explain 144, what they are, the 666 code carriers, as well as the 199 code carriers and the bringers of change, and what that means as to whether we do or don't succeed in our mission, and what detrimental effects are happening at this current state collectively, and some of the things that I haven't been focusing on because I have been very much devoted to my own personal service in the awareness of what that means for an overall whole. And when service to self is actually service to the greater collective, when we are aware of these things. So I'm just going to adjust my beautiful Christos, and we are going to take 3 deep breaths together by breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And breathing in and breathing out. Now, if you've received a transmission from me before, what I do every time there is a transmission, I will usually, if I haven't done it before, I will breathe in and create a sacred space, and I enter and connect with the higher selves and the spirits of those that are coming to receive it, either now or at a later date, and I ask for their assistance. So I want to explain that because this is what a frequency bearer, an activator, a light carrier, a way shower is in truth, in the ethereal. And we don't talk about the ethereal as much as the human realms because we don't really understand it, or not many of us do. So as this, what we just did then, to make sense of what we just did then, and through your sovereignty and through your consent, because I only ever work in sovereign free will, which is instated on this planet as a universal law, is that we went into a place of what we might consider a divine union moment. where your heart and my heart and the hearts of those that are receiving this connected. And what happens when we do that is, depending on what code carrier you are, we create a portal of light where the light can go up into the ethereal, the light can go through the collective consciousness, and the light and the frequencies can go down into the matter and anchor into the earth grids. So this is what we would say is a collective healing. This is a collective transformation of consciousness, because even though you're here receiving just for you, by staying in your mind-heart coherence, by staying in your physical cellular structure of your channel and receiving this, what happens is my transmission comes through your cellular body, your light expands, your consciousness expands, your frequency expands, and I also get to use you effectively as an antenna to insert energy into the above and the below and anchor a higher vibrational state through our firmament in this reality that we call Earth. So there is a level of, I guess what you could say, very intentional agenda. I have an agenda. My agenda is to allow for this evolution of the planet to be one of ease, of grace, of honor of life, which means that I'm here to honor the life of the human beings that exist here as we evolve into the next stages of our transformation, which means that as the earth and the poles shift, I desire for as many human beings to evolve with the earth and for there not to be damage and detrimental effects to human life, because I care a lot about human life. I care a lot about the human species. And this means that what I do is a little more than me just saying, hey guys, this is what's going on collectively. There is so much that I know that's taking place, and this is where I'm exposing myself. When you jump on a transmission, I'm effectively using my agenda to assist humanity to evolve by using your sovereign choice to listen and consent to be in this transmission, to bring more frequency, light, and consciousness onto the planet through a collective transmission or healing by coming into breath, by being in presence and allowing your own energy, your own codes, your own vibrations to all dance and weave together in this moment. And so this is something that for me as a code carrier, a specific code carrier, being a 199, which I'll explain later, I require a lot of assistance to bring the frequencies I hold. My physical being cannot hold it alone. And I became very aware of this in what's coming about 10, 11, 12 months ago, where a desperation came through that was not alchemized at the time of I need to make sure that I find the support and the anchors that I require to put and anchor this light, this frequency, this geometry into the earth to assist the transition that we're moving through. Now, what that means is that I was doing a lot of big collective work. I was offering a lot of transmissions on YouTube. I was doing a lot of opening my one-on-ones so that not only can I assist the individual that is coming and witnessing and awaken and help them to remember their Christ consciousness or to remember their origins, their past life, or clear any entities and disturbances, any AI, all of these things. There's so many different technologies, mantis beings, as well as, you've got toning devices, implantation. These different things that I was assisting was also, yes, I can help you, but I also really need your help. And it's always a reciprocal exchange. And so this reciprocal exchange was, I need to get some frequencies into specific earth grids. So let's take a moment to breathe, connect to the earth, connect to the ether, create a sacred space, often put security around and different safety precautions, because that light and that mission, which is my mission, is let's get as much light and frequency into the earth and help the grids and the crystalline and provide those codes. And you can receive the healing and the awakening that you require. And I'm just going to use your vessel. And this necessity came up. And so for many women or men that are frequency holders or light bearers, they require a counterpart. This is why so many of us are so goddamn obsessed with divine union. Divine union, we're not here for love. I'm sorry, it might be uncomfortable, but the truth of your monadic self, your soul, your spirit, the one that chose to come onto the earth, didn't come here for love. Now, love actually is quite a low vibration. Love is a vibration. It's actually a feeling and sensation. So love, when it comes to the hierarchy of consciousness, is way lower than enlightenment, peace, and that's because it's much lower than Christos and divine union. When we look at Yeshua and Mary, that are a good example for this in regards to information and anchoring and transformation for humanity. So with that, we didn't come here for love. We came here for a very specific mission. We were chosen and we chose. So that's where the chosen ones come from. You might have heard me say this before. A chosen one is someone who was chosen to come as a renegade or a mission carrier, and we also chose that mission. So it was a reciprocal choice. We are the chosen ones. We are here to do this very specific mission, and in truth, our human is kind of on for the ride. And if you can get your human and your spirit to work in tandem, it's a lot more easeful and it's a lot more fun and it's a lot more playful. But your spirit and your soul's directive to be here for this, your mission and purpose is the one thing that will drive everything in your life, because you know how important it is. Now, it's not finding that that divine counterpart, or that having that child. It's not being successful in that business. It's actually about your light, your frequency, and what you're bringing as a consciousness to the planet. And so this will drive you. And if you're not stabilizing your frequency, if you're not grounded in your pillar, if you're opening and closing your chakra systems, if your heart is tethering, if your mind is tethering, it's getting to a point where that's going to be really, really painful. Very, very painful. And the reason it's so painful is because you're running out of time. We are running out of time. And so you may not be aware of it, because many of us have put blocks over to go, get your shit together. It's time to do the work, get it done, get it done, get it done. And there's been a lot of focus on self, preparing. You might have been hearing all of these words: preparing, grounding, making sure your body is in a physical level of attainment to hold whatever it is. And there's so much inner work that's taking place, because it is getting to a point where you have to be stable and solid in who you are. Not just who you are as a human in your authentic expression, in who you are through the multidimensional layers of your vibration in this physical vessel where spirit and matter join. Now, this urgency is that on this planet, in this reality, we are bound by time. Yes, you can transcend it and you can merge it and bend it, but you are bound by time. Now, we know, as beings from higher dimensional expressions that came back in time, what has already taken place on the earth. We have watched it. We have witnessed it. We know how important it is. We came back in time to change things. We came back in time to ensure that that ripple effect does not affect every other being on this planet. And so this and beyond, right? This is not just about the earth. This is about the universe. This is about every single galaxy and parallel universe and the entire creation point space. It has a ripple effect through everything. And with this, your spirit and your soul is really going to start to push you now. Because if you're not stable, if you're not remembered, if you're not doing what it is actually now coming into what I will say from a very loving, not fearful. This is not fear mongering. This is not anything but that truth. And sometimes the truth is really super uncomfortable. And if you know me, you will know that because that truth is that it's becoming a life and death situation. And the earlier channels, the prophetic visions that I've shared, the things that I stepped away from for a period of time to say, guys, we gotta get our things together. That has been on pause because the focus was too much on the collective and no one was looking at their inner work of what that really means to be this for the earth, to be this, why you are so gifted to be here, why you are a chosen one, why you are a bringer of change, means that you were given a vessel. That is the most powerful gift God could ever give you. And the opportunity to be here on the earth for this. And many of us have forgotten, are distracting, are delaying, are fucking shit up. And I'm going to say that with love because I'm allowed, because it's the truth. Now, what this means. So I am a unification, the unification code. I hold the unification code now. If you haven't seen that transmission, you might find it interesting because another code carrier of this is actually Elon Musk. Baria Kushkeriana, not Elon Musk. I did a transmission on Elon Musk that apparently you guys also need to hear to see a different interpretation of him. But the unification code is a code that Donald Trump holds. And, you either love him or you hate him, right? Because people don't like the truth. People don't like the bluntness. People don't, they find it very arrogant. They find it superiority. They're like, this isn't love and light. This isn't spiritual, blah, blah, blah. This isn't helping humanity. Well, a lot of unification codes carriers see the truth and they will maneuver, manipulate, and do what they need to for the betterment of the greater good. And that also means honoring life. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a high five to Donald Trump because I can see a lot more than what others see and what is taking place in the grand scheme of things. But that is not what this is about. So we are redirecting back to the original point of this around the narcissist and empath dynamic and what that means for a bringer of change and for a code carrier. And I want to explain it beyond the human, right? We talk about this narcissist empath dynamic, this light and dark, masculine, dark, feminine, all of these things, right? That's all separation. It's all fragmented mind. It's all an illusion. And the truth is about it is that really a narcissist in the purified form is a divine expression of a underworld code carrier. And the empath is the divine expression of a ethereal or an upper realm code carrier. And these dynamics is in the awareness that as a union, you require an upper and a lower to be in divine union. You require a frequency holder and an anchor. So the narcissistic expression of fragmented mind, because that's what it is. It's a human being that has fragmented into the lower realms of what we could say is sin, underworld behaviors, satanic energies. They might have an obsession with the human experience. They might want to never leave the earth. They might be attached to the human species in the form of a lot of what we would say earthly, worldly experiences. That can mean drinking, drugs, sex, the gluttony, a tendency to get distracted in other human beings. They're very service to self, and this service to self dynamic is not wrong. And the challenge is that the human species has wronged this personality type or this human energy, and that all that this is, and I want to explain it in truth, is an individual being that's come from the void or the point of no thing up to earth, right? So their evolution has been from going from the down to the up. and they meet on the Earth's surface. So they've not come down like many star seeds and light workers. They've come down that came down through the dimensions into a human body. They've come up from the rocks. They've come up from hell. They've come up, and they've essentially moved through the earth, which is where a lot of the dragon consciousness actually comes from. A lot of dragons don't come from the ethereal. The only ones that are ethereal are the seraphim, and those are the ones that have actually gone through the process of from the bottom up to meet the seraphim through evolvement. So the seraphim dragon is an evolved earth, inner earth dragon. Now, so this evolutionary process of moving from the inner earth up is what a 666 code carrier is. Now, a 666 code carrier is absolutely vital to the overall mission and purpose that we've come to bring, and that is that that little bit of perfection and OCD is, I'm just not going to look at it. I can't get it. Okay, so the 666 code carrier is vital in the form of they're the anchors, they're the grid workers, they are the ones that work in the shamanic realms, they are the ones that take us down and purify the ancestral energies of the earth, they are the ones that are the holders. They're actually meant to be the ones that are holding and the containers, we could even say. And so these 666 underworld code carriers, which we're going to take the stigma off and the distortions off, are going to have more of your service to self and narcissistic energies attached to them, and that's their journey to alchemize that, to come into a unified perspective. And they need their mirror to do that. They need their mirror to show them empathy. They need their mirror to show them the expression of collective work. They need their mirror to show them the higher realms, to bring in that unification, to guide them up to spirit. They need that frequency and light bearer to awaken them from what they have been in and remind them of where they came from. Because in truth, we all came from the same point of source at some point, right? You either came from a primordial expression of creator, you either came from God consciousness as your first birth of a spark of light, or you were one of the original expressions of source energy itself. So there are three prime energy birthing spirit expressions, but when you come into all of that, they make up the I am. And if we go back to the very, very, very point of I am, we are all connected. We are all of these. And to know thyself in the totality of experience, you have to see yourself through all of these lenses. So what that means is that even if a being has gone from the point of the void, and I'm going to use the torus field for an example. The torus field has your circle and it has your channel through the center, right? So the torus field has this channel that is through the center, and you've got this big bubble of light and energy on the outside edges, and it weaves in. Now, you might, if you've got a phone handy, you might want to have a look at the torus field so that you can understand what I'm saying. And what happens is this center of the channel of the torus field is what we could call our dimensions of experience. And our three-dimensional experience sits within that center channel of the torus field. And this is where we go up and down and spiral up and down through dimensions to understand ourselves. So this would be a torus field that's not in coherence of awareness of what oneself is. It doesn't mean the torus field doesn't work. It means the point of view and the consciousness perspective is coming from a point of either up here in the torus field, down here, but hasn't found the center point to see the entire field. Now, the beings that have functioned in those higher expressions of this torus field have to come down. They have to understand energy in all those directions and anchor their field into place. Now, those that have come from the void, what actually happens is they've actually started from the top of the torus field. They've gone the outside. So basically they've gone onto the outer energies of the experience and ended up in the void of no thing to work their way up the torus field. Now, that means that no underworld character has ever not had light or connection to light. It means that they've basically gone from the top and then flipped to the bottom in such a quick moment of experience that they didn't even know what happened. Now, you could see this as just as experiential learning and interpretation of reality. So with that, the importance of the functionality is what we've mastered. So the underworld code carriers are masters of matter. They're masters of holding. They're masters of specific dimensional abilities and gifts that many of us we all have different abilities and gifts. I specifically am not a master of matter. I would love to be, but I'm not. I'm a master of light. My ascended mastery comes in the form of light. I'm not ascended mastery in frequency, nor am I in vibration. Those that are singers and bring their codes through sound are masters of sound, right? That's their mastery. That is the dimension that they have mastered. And the mastery is important for the greater good of the whole. We all work together. So if one of us fails, we kind of all fail. And so I'm going to talk about the three specific code carriers of the 199, the 144, and the 666. So we just started talking into the 666. The 666 are the underworld characters. I could, for instance, because I am a 199, never be in a relationship with a 199 because that is too much light, too much frequency, too much. You blow yourself out. You couldn't anchor yourself. Maybe if we lived in tribes and there was enough 666 around to stabilize the two of us, it would just be something that is not possible physically at this point in time on the earth. Now, the 666 carriers have enough density and enough interpretation once their portals to the underworld are cleared, once they're no longer taken by sin of separate mind, once they're no longer in patriarchal distortions, inversions of control, manipulation, and their own ego construct or shadow self. And this is the hardest thing for a 666 carrier, is a 666 is the underworld code carrier. And their hardest thing is getting out of the human condition, which is the service to self of it's all about me, which means the blame game. That means constantly maneuvering and manipulating others to get your needs met, constantly in a point of not thinking about how your own expression affects another because you're so self-orientated. And this means that a lot of 666 holders are coming into, and there's no difference to being distorted in the underworld as there is to being in the upper world. And I've spoken a lot about false light and those different things. So it's just a perspective lens of interpretation of consciousness. The 666 holders require to recognize how selfish they are. They have to recognize how much they've driven their life based on their own needs. They have to recognize that they have been extremely abusive, manipulative, and controlling for their own agenda. And that means their agenda is actually divine union in self, which is opening the heart chakra into a point of dissolving the masculine and the feminine polarities. Now, I've been lucky enough to journey with multiple of these 666 underworld carriers, and coming into an open heart for them is excruciatingly painful and hard. Now, for me, coming into an open heart was super easy, and I don't understand it because I'm not from that perspective. And it means living from a place of the open heart of love. And that means them becoming an unconditionally loving being. So love will be a primary driver for them. Love being their heart center is a primary point, which means that they've got an object of affection, which is their love. You're the expression of love for me. You give me love, you give me joy, you give me happiness, you give me service, and so service might be very much something the underworld code carrier holds, the 666, but it's service through the form of self. So through success, through fame, through monetary value, and it could even be spiritual service, but it's not for the collective. They're not driven for collective transformation. They're not even driven to assist humanity in the form of human life. They're doing it for service to self. And that's okay. That's an experience. It doesn't make it better or worse. There is ups and downs to all interpretations of the human experience, and all is necessary, which is what this is about. So the 666 will need to work on the overt and covert narcissistic personality type, and where they will maneuver and manipulate their entire reality to come into what we will call divine union, which is open-hearted living and the division of the left and the right hemispheres, the masculine and the feminine, come into a unity point. And so that is their initiation, and that's probably their entire human initiation, and they may not be able to be in service until they really get to that in the form of being selfless, because once you are in divine union, you then realize that you are a mirror to everyone. So that is the importance of the 666. They will work with the grids, they transform, they bring the light in. We need them. I need them. I really need them. Now, we'll go to the 144. So the 144 are actually the codes to unlock human consciousness. So a 144 code carrier, and we talk about the 144, is for the unlocking of the human consciousness. And what that means is that basically the human awakening. This is where we awaken from the human three-dimensional realms of experience into a different perspective of reality, to see ourselves as a soul, to see ourselves beyond flesh. It's unlocking the human condition, which is specifically around specific archetypes, specific perspectives of what we would call the more mainstream dynamic of interpretation. And the unlocking of the human condition is where we begin to unlock a living beyond what we've been told. This is maybe what we would say is the primary energies we see around talking about awakening. And when we unlock the human condition, we become awakened, or we go into our awakening. This is where we see beyond the illusion, yet there's many illusions to see beyond. And so the 144 are what we would call probably the primary, the main leaders, for instance, because they're going to be talking about the more mainstream collective spirituality. They might be, they might be your yoga instructors, or even your starseed light guru people. They might be ones that are here in service through more what we might say the initial stages of awakening. So they're here for the masses. So the 144 are here for the masses to unlock the human condition and start the awakening and begin the awakening. And that is a very important stage, right? So this is where we've gone from service to self into service to the collective on a mass level. So it's like micro, macro, and they're a perfect polarity and support to each other. And this is a very important role, because when we have the big waves of awakening that are coming, we need many 144 beings that are supporting big groups of people. So I know a lot of these individuals, these are your individuals that go and tour, say, Bali and do big breath work sessions or big sound healings. These are beings that are here as 144, and they're here to work with the mass energies to that level of consciousness and assist that initial awakening stage, which is the primary of our spiritual community and our conscious community, which is why some, like myself, don't resonate to those spaces because of the awareness of those spaces. Is that it is freshly awakened. The spiritual community is really just awakening to their true self, their true nature. Now, this 144 is the unlocking, so that they require, they're more stabilized within themselves. They don't require a divine counterpart so much. Now, it's nice. They can have light partners. They can have support crew. They often have lots of support crew. So 144 code carriers that work in this way with the collective as a mass collective offering, they often have many bringers of change. So they'll have a big business. They'll have a lot of facilitators. They'll have lots of beings that are helping them, but they don't necessarily need a relationship to do that because they've got what the bringers of change are. The bringers of change are your support crew. They are, they might be assisting through taking someone else's modality and supporting by bringing that modality, which is, you have many bringers of change that are Reiki masters and they work in the realms of Reiki. You have many bringers of change that might have taken the access consciousness framework and taken that around. And these are the collective whole. These are sort of digestible for most people that have awakened. It's not too crazy. It's not too multidimensional. It's not too overwhelming. Reiki is, let's just put our hands on and let the energy do the thing and use a couple of symbols and things like that. And it's a beautiful technique and it's very profound for individuals at that, but it doesn't require a lot of intellectually conscious development and advancement of the psyche to do that. You just need to be in trust as the pillar of energy. Now, there's a lot of those, and that is what you will primarily see, and that's very powerful. So if you resonate to being the bringer of change, that's perfect. You don't need to bring your own modality. You can advance into that if you like, but it's okay to not compare yourself to, say, someone like me, because we're different. And that's okay. That's perfect because we all play our role. So these will grab information. They're the bringers of change. They will bring a little bit here, and create their own service or support someone else. And very, very powerful energies. So the 199 are the few, and they don't get talked about as much because of this. So the 199 are the reincarnated original Anunnaki, the gods, the goddesses that have been talked about in history. They are two-spirited, so they come in with extra frequency, extra light, and they have a higher perspective of history as well as distortions, and they're here to reconcile the past. The 199 are the ones that I have mostly focused on connecting with, or 144s that have chosen to evolve into a 199. Now that is, we did speak about the walk-ins that were happening around the end of last year, why that was happening, people that chose to take other roles that were being released, all of these things. And so the 199s are two-spirited. Now this is a fun experience in the human reality. So 199s have two spirits, and the point of that is to purify two spirits, merge them and marry them into one, I guess what you could call super consciousness. And they hold an extremely high light. They have a very, very intellectual understanding of consciousness. They know different dimensions and realms, and they're here for a very, very, very big purpose that requires a lot of support. And their primary focus has been for them to purify these spirits and bring them into a point of being one-spirited as a 199 DNA strand representation. So what happens for those beings that are resonant to this, which will be the minuscule, right? There's very few 199s, so they're not. The reason that I'm sharing it is because I want to give you the whole picture, right? That means the point of the top of the pyramid and the bottom, all a part of the pyramid structure. So the top of the pyramid people, being the 199, have challenges because they have a lot of bipolar tendencies, because they've got two spirits. They've technically they've got personality disorder. They have different voices. One of their spirits might be more malevolent and could have a 199 energy. A 666. So they could be an underworld spirit that's been stuck in the underworld for a long time, has a lot to purify from those energies. Maybe descended back in history and has to reconcile that aspect of their psyche. And then their other one might be more ascended, which is generally what happens. They choose to hold a spirit that has gone through the fall from grace or Luciferian expressions into the underworld and taken on the descended and then the ascended. But they often live from one perspective lens of this spirit. So for me, I live from the spirit that I've spoken about the most, which is the spirit of Isis. And her history has been the prime denominator because she was ascended. She had a distorted lens of purity, and the purification of purity is quite an interesting journey. But that was the focus lens. The focus lens was being that, until I was able to look at the descended one, which was the consciousness carrier, or the goddess Kali. Now, I've also spoken about her in the form of stop devoting to her. She's not purified. You're feeding her, right? So this is where we talk about feeding demons. Now, for me to stop feeding the demon that existed within me, I went vegan. I stopped sexual activities. There was all of these things that I had to abstain from during the purification process, because so many beings were still chanting and using her, and that's the dark feminine. That is not pure. And don't care how anyone wants to talk about it. Killing in the name of mother and child is a distorted trauma response. Okay, now Kali's story around Devi Pavati is a whole nother YouTube, which I might do one day. Probably will. It's quite fun to understand history and the truth through someone's remembered consciousness. But so there is a descendant and ascended. Now, for those that are living in the 199 where they've got both spirits present, that's really hard, because that often means a lot of psychosis, a lot of mental instability, a lot of wisdom that gets distorted, because their spirits are fighting each other. A lot of ascend, descend, so going into one spirit, then down into the other spirit, up, down. And that is a really challenging purification process, and is not understood by many. So usually a 199 is only understood by another 199 because other people don't get it. And it's okay. They're not meant to be got. They're not meant to be understood, because that's why the pillar of the light at the top, once they purify. Now, if they've come in as a 199 with two spirits and they're not able to purify their second spirit will eventually leave the body, and that drops them down to being a 144. And that can be perfect for them. right? It's okay to go, yeah, this is actually really hard. I didn't realize what I was signing up for as a human being in this grand scheme of things. And I'm going to give that up. And so that happens. I've witnessed a lot of that where 199 will give one of their spirits up. It will exit. So instead of a walk in, it's a walk out. And you have one spirit that goes through the purification process. Life gets a little bit more easeful, less turbulence and less chaos inside the inner being. Some of the walk-ins that come in to take those roles can manage, and then it can get too hard, and that can also happen. And so there's a lot of changes of roles and things that happen in relation to that. And a 199 cannot really truly lead from that frequency until they come into the purity of both spirits, because there will always be some sort of slight shadow, and that people see that even if it's not acted from, it's sensed, right? Which is where I have been demonized by many of my soul families, because I didn't even know that I had that descended consciousness that was bound into my bone marrow of my physical vessel, that had to come up through intense transformation to purify it, because I refused to allow any darkness to come through my channel. So even the darkness of myself was suppressed, repressed, and magicalified, placed within containers of magic to ensure the purity of the channel of the vessel. And that was done through two spirits, right? So Isis basically banished Kali into my bone marrow because she's like, you're too fucking messy. Get your shit together. Now, that's how we can make it funny. It wasn't a funny journey. It was actually very traumatic and very hard to go through, and a lot on the physical vessel, which I'm still transforming from. Okay, so we've talked about the three main code carriers, 199, 144, 166. Love you to put in the comments who you are, what you think you are, what you feel you are, what you know you are. And then in the middle of this beautiful pyramid structure is our bringers of change. Our bringers of change actually hold, now this is why I'm going to share why I shared all of those things with you, is to understand the big grand scheme of things, is the bringers of change hold a code from each of those. So they hold, a bringer of change has a 199, a 144, and a 166 code. So they hold all three codes, yet none of them are the full code. It makes up its own code, which is the bringer of change. So they can resonate to all three beings. A bringer of change can feel and know all three beings. So they're more grounded in their overall worldview. They have this ability to see all perspectives because they actually hold a code from all three. And that's why they're so important. And it means that if they really want to evolve, that if someone who's chosen to be this decides that it's too hard and they don't want to keep doing the mission, that they opt out, that one of these bringers of change can go through the evolutionary process. Now, why is all of this important right now? The reason that this is important right now, and so important right now, is that we are at quite a lot of collective choice points. There has been a lot of self-sacrificial things taking place, a lot of swapping of consciousness, a lot of let's catch you up, let's get you can pause, you're more advanced, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of like a chess game. As much as we have these beautiful human beings that are on the ride and often are like, oh, God, I get it now. We are chessboarding to have the most optimal play at the time that is required. And at the moment, we are running out of time for some very important transformations that do got to be impeccable with the word. In November, of this year, there will be another great awakening. So there's going to be a mass global awakening, and there's a lot of lead up. So you have enough exposure and things being exposed, and you just look around the world to see that. Anyone who has Facebook, social media, YouTube, or occasionally checks the news, you will start to see the exposure project. Now, when you expose, you start to awaken. When you put some thoughts that are unusual to what maybe they thought, then you start to question. And so there is a predicted mass awakening in November, and many of us are preparing for what that means, the influx of new souls that need support. And those that are, being a 199, I help those that are leading those that help the masses. So I do work with the few, yet I resonate to the many, and I try to speak to the all. And my counterpart is actually one that is more resonant for the all. And the importance of this is that we are coming to what we might call a specific point of time that will start to change the perspective of the history in our making. Now, we have just witnessed some pretty interesting global transformation just after Easter. So the Pope and the last Pope, and I'm going to explain that really briefly, really quickly, because it's fun. The last Pope as we know it. So this is when a new energy or spiritual leader for religion and for the churches will come in. So yes, he is the last Pope, and there will not be another Pope in the form of what has been. There is a new frequency of light, similar to how you're seeing the new presidential expression come in, which might be confusing at first, because you're not going to see what it looks like in truth until the brain adjusts to the big picture, because these are beings that have a very strategic mission and a long-term transformation taking place. So you'll see bit by bit, the puzzle pieces that come together. So religion is about to transform, but it's not going to look the way that it appears, and it is going to have a purified expression, because the next spiritual leader in the form of this church dynamic and all of the power that comes with that is coming from a much higher dimensional realm. The previous Pope came very much from the realms of the one dimension. Still, his energy is still residual in the field. So he's a very low character, and works with the dark lords of no things. So that's actually below the one dimensions, and that's pretty icky stuff. Now, I don't know about you, but I looked at Pope. I think his name's Pope Francis. I don't know, but I would just be like, oh man, how do people not see the demons that are inside of you? Like, I don't understand. But that is a powerful, we could call it a win if you want to, but it's a powerful recognition of transformation and also the predictions of history, and that this is prophesized, right? This is prophesized. We are in and have been in the prophecy for a while. We are actually already living this. It is very well on its way, and it's now just exposing itself in how it represents through much scripture. So with that, new religious leader from a much higher dimensional realm of experience beyond false light, so up in the unity consciousness, you could call them a Christ code carrier holder, and that will be a gradual process. Now, with this, because of the amount of frequency that is here on the earth, there's a lot of releasing of lower dimensional beings that have been in physical form. So there's going to be a lot of stepping down in different ways as that being either leaves the body of the vessel or passes over, as we've seen, and the frequency shifts on the earth. With this, there is the pole shift. Now, the pole shift is the thing that I am most focused on for my work and my mission, because I have a history of great deluges and I do not want to see it repeat. So that's my agenda, is to ensure that those that are here, to ensure that we don't go through history in the way that we have, that we allow for life to be honored to the best of our ability, knowing that with every transformation, there is a natural birth, death, and rebirth cycle, or a transformation of life, we could say. And ensuring that it is easeful and graceful. Now, the first major weather system is coming up. I cannot get an exact prediction of date, because that's one of the things that I actually struggle with when I don't have an anchor. So for me, requiring a strong pillar and anchor, my partner is, my beloved is this. He is doing the best to his ability to anchor. Yet, like all of us, we are humans, and his pillar is where it is at the moment. And so when I don't have a strong pillar, I can't predict with clarity, because I have so much frequency and light moving through me that finding the exact point, date, and transcription timelines are very hard for me. I can see them and I can see them clearly, but when it comes to precision in the form of, say, logic, because I am a feminine that weaves, I need that container to solidify, anchor, and get very clear. Yet my awareness is that it's early October. Now, early October in Australia. And I do, hang on, let me double check that is in 2025. Because that would be uncomfortable. No, Geeia, I got it wrong. It was in 2028. It's not. but this is this is the awareness, is that it is, from my awareness, from my predictions that I've been shown, it is in October, Australia, in 2025. Now, I can't give an exact date, because I would be, and I've made mistakes like this in the past, and I've upset people because I didn't even know that I had this challenge with timelines and dates, which means I'm a great prophesy, and I'm a great prophetic visioner, but my times are often far earlier than I've shared, which makes people go, well, it didn't happen. It will all happen. Anything I've ever said is going to happen will happen. So I just don't know when. And I will get better at that. Which is why many of the masculine prophecies have been better at this prediction, and women struggle. So with that, this Australian sorry, a lot of lights coming through. Maria Kushkeriana Yatukuyandiana Siske Sitikisha Takariana Do Okoto Koreana Eske Eshikiatarianu Otokoriana Yakiatakeshinda Takarianu Okotokuyana Esete Edede Kiata Takarianu Otorakutokuyana Ba Asete Shikiataka Amarianu Otokoye Esishate Sishate Shishkae Osko Shotokoya Tekia 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 Nai. Beautiful. Just receiving what's there for you. As we anchor it into the grids, into the earth, into the ether, into all layers of the fabric of the universe. through the collective consciousness, through the collective light body. Mariatish Karianaya to Koreanayaka. Boro Korea Siska Ashakiata Karianaya Kiakata Karianai. Eshki Ishikiata Kariata Tokuyanaya Kiandare. Dushki Ishikiata Kariata Tokuyanai. Beautiful. Taking another deep breath if you're breathing with me. And breathing out. Well, I haven't experienced light like that for a while. So that was beautiful. And also taking a lot on my neurology. So Australia being the first, Australia and New Zealand. So Australia and New Zealand, I believe that is kind of like trying to see geography in my mind. It was always the subject that I struggled the most with at school, and I understand why. All of the things that I resisted as a teenager, as a young adult, had all the codes, and I would have absolutely short-circuited. So too much trauma in my physical body. Maria Now, this prediction, October, so what are we? We're nearly in, we're at the end of April, so we've got about 4 months. Now, this predicted weather situation in Australia. Australia has been seen as one of the trial countries. Australia has been used for a lot of patriarchal control, seeing what the agendas can do. And it is one where there is actually a lot of the original divine race, the Anunnaki reincarnated, and the reconciliation. So Australia is a pretty powerful place. It actually is connected to the original lands of Lemuria, and has one of the most ancient rainforests, which connects into that. There is a lot of ancient sites that have been destroyed by the government, and we have the original people. Now, the original people are the original people. So the beautiful Indigenous and the Aboriginal of Australia are directly connected to the very first human species on the planet. They are the original people. Now, that means that their wisdom and their information is very important to be awoken into the world. Now, it is not being shared, and if you know anything about Australian culture and history, we have very much tried to repress, suppress, and destroy that race for what they hold, which is devastating, and maybe why some of Media Shushka Indiana Tukuyana, the light bearers have a very strong connection to the original people, because it goes right back to Lemuria, and this crystalline frequency of remembrance, and the Pleiades and the Syrians and blah blah. So this experience, what takes place, or what is predicted to take place in October of this year in Australia, is quite catastrophic. And currently, we are just holding the light, just holding the light. And if one of us drops out, that actually is a very dangerous position to put ourselves in. Will mean that a lot of soul family will drop out, which means they will leave the earth, and many of us will actually lose our lives physically. And I'm not saying this to be scary. I'm saying this because on the map that was channeled through, which I'm yet to release because it requires education, I've been asked to hold off, which I will not be sharing publicly. It will be in my private transmissions of the community because it needs education, is that there is a split that goes straight through the Sunshine Coast of Australia, and there's New Earth land from the Sunshine Coast up to just below Cairns. Now, if you are an Australian, this is New Earth land. There will be a group of what we could say AI military that will come onto the coast of the central Queensland coast and reclaim this land as New Earth land. Now, I don't know, that's not in October. I don't know when that will happen, but this is a military that exists on the outskirts of the ice wall. You know how we have certain areas of our Earth that are out of bounds. So there is already AI military that run from there, and they are a part of the New Earth leadership or the New World Order. And this AI military is very specifically there because there will be need for a specific level of force with respect to human life. So that's how we can embrace AI. We're no longer sending our man and our woman into military experiences and the loss of life in the name of control, power, etc., etc. So I'm pretty embracing of an AI military because I have also witnessed what war has done to the masculine and the feminine over time, and the slaughter and the pain. Whew. Thankfully, I've almost alchemized all of it. There's something in my throat there. Okay, so with this, the other area, most of Australia is old earth land. And what that means is there's going to be some pretty detrimental things that happen to Australian land. There will be the Sydney Harbour bridge, and that area will go into complete deluge in the year 27. And there are certain amounts of flooding that will occur through tsunami. There will be what you might consider, they're not earthquakes, but they're more breaks in the fault lines where the earth collapses in. So there's collapsing of the earth that moves in, where big lakes and rivers will come through. There's earth that comes up out of Australia, but there's earth that goes in. This is a worldwide thing. This will happen to the entire globe, and it happens through stages. The other area that is New Earth for Australia is the state of Victoria. Victoria has to go through a mass descension first before it will meet the New Earth transformation, whereas Queensland is going through a mass ascension. So you could say they're working in tandem and polarity. So with Victoria, most of Victoria will be destroyed through natural disaster, and the remaining land will be New Earth land, and it's only a small pocket. So a lot of lives will be shifted from that. In regards to this, why is it important for the global community for when this arrives, for when this lands? Because what it means is a ripple effect. When you start to see the New World Order taking over parts of land, now for the Australian people, we're not even a part of the Australian land. We're actually a part of some other little small island. So there's a lot of tricks that have been made to the Australian people, which means that the land is the original people's land, and that is why it is owned by different it is contracted, we'll say. It is contracted to different governmental and organizations around the globe that are not even Australian government. And this you will not find if you research. Well, you might. I'm not deep into the conspiracy world. So yet what that means is that you're going to witness how the world is going to transform from New Earth, New World Order, and continue in old Earth constructs as a complete shift. And this means things like, and you would have seen it already, is Trump wanting to buy specific countries, wanting to take on specific countries, and wanting to merge with specific countries. And this is all about bringing in the new world order. You cannot say, hey, we're a new earth, come join our team. This has to be done over a lot of stages, a lot of things that might not look as they seem. Okay, there is one final piece. I can feel my brain is starting to glitch out. Okay, so when it comes to numbers, there is 666 underworld code carriers. There is 199 199 code carriers. There is 144 144 code carriers. There is also, as the bringers of change, 145. Hang on. The one, sorry. Blah, 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 blah. The bringers of change, there is 144K. So that's where your 144,000 are. They are your bringers of change. And when we add all of these together, you get 145,009. And when you add all of those numbers up together, you get the number one, oneness. So look, I'm not one that goes into all of those dynamics, but I do understand basic geometry, number sequencing. I use it in code. It is something that I have a fabric of the universe interpretation of. There's very specific interpretations as to why we've chosen this. Yet it's also, it might be important for some of you that use numbers. Now, there's 343 new Earth leaders, and there's 666 old Earth leaders. The 144 and the 199 are here to build the new Earth. The 666 are here to guide the old Earth. We are not separate from each other. We are one. The old Earth leaders are just as important as the new Earth leader. So, for instance, my partner is an old Earth leader. I am a new Earth leader, but he is an all Earther because he's chosen to encompass his energy to be in my energy vortex, which means that he is functioning in that way. However, that's pretty unique. He's a pretty unique, amazing soul, like so amazing. But with that, you have most old Earth leaders will be with old Earth counterparts. Most new Earth leaders will require to be with an evolved old Earth leader, if that makes sense. So an underworld code carrier. So an underworld code carrier means that they are more of a bridge, and they assist old Earthers to evolve into enough of a vibrational vortex to be the bringer of change or to move into the new Earth of their choosing. Okay, so what does that mean for us now? It means that we need to get really clear on who we are. We need to get really clear on what we're here for. We need to get really clear in stabilizing our frequency. We need to get really clear where our weaknesses and our vulnerability are. Are you weak in your sacral chakra? Are you weak in your heart? Can you stay stabilized? Do you go up into logical thinking and override your intuition? Is it that your physical body is not maintaining your frequency? Is it what is your current challenge, and how do you very, very quickly adjust and transform for what is at play? Because if we don't act now, and this is what the choice point is that not only are roles being released in this choice point, we're actually destabilizing ourselves and the entire Earth, which means these transitions are going to be a lot more detrimental than any of us desire. And so looking at what is it, focus on that you don't need to look at anything other than where is your weakness, where is your vulnerability point, and what is that, and what do you require to ensure that you become so unshakable at that point of what allows in psychic attack, or what allows you to end up, in bed, or unable to facilitate, or whatever it is. Just be a human being. What is stopping you from your human being a functional human being? Because if you're a functional human being, then you're doing a really good job. Because that means your light, your frequency, and your consciousness is marrying with your matter. So how functional is your human? And where your human is really challenged is where we need to work on and look at for this next step. So I know this was a really long transmission, and I know that I've just started to go down into the point of needing another coffee and some food. And just before I go, I do want to touch on this because I'm sure all of you have noticed, and it's been something that's been really challenging for me to fully work through in the form of what is taking place, because I'm aware of what it is, yet from the outside lens, it doesn't look that way. At the moment, my physical body has got so much frequency in it that my cells and my what some might consider weight gain has occurred. This has got nothing to do with food. This has nothing to do with trauma. This has nothing to do with not looking after myself. This has nothing to do with anything other than the amount of frequency that I've chosen to hold in my body, and not having a clear anchor point to send it into the earth. So what's happening is it is gaining in my body. Now I've chosen to have a extra dominant and a larger sacral chakra. Now some of us have chosen, I have a large crown and a large sacral. So they've been genetically modified, we could say, so that I have a strong power or a creative center, a kundalini current, and chi life force. So I'm a massive creator being, as well as a really strong conduit as the crown chakra, right? So those are my dominant chakras, which means that I have more tummy weight when there is a lot of energy going on. Now, through my life experience, I have maintained a consistent weight, but based on the evolution and the emergence of my two spirits coming into form, I have more frequency my body can handle. And I don't have the support that I need to support my body. So I'm at a choice point myself where my body can't maintain this anymore. I actually can't physically get any bigger. That would put too much pressure on my heart. It would actually put me into cardiac arrest and my nervous system and my cortisol levels. So you could say my body is unwell at the moment with the amount of frequency I'm holding. Now, what that means is that either the pillar in my life experience anchors and stabilizes, or I need to find other pillars and anchors, which means collective work and drawing in ways that I can get this frequency into the earth, and finding other sustainable ways to nourish that of who I am, and getting the support and creating the experiences that are assistant of that. So that is the uncomfortability of it. And the uncomfortability of it is that for me, knowing this, knowing the memories, knowing the past, having all of my past lives, having all of this information, coming to this point, none of life matters to me more than the human species and this mission and purpose. So I will do whatever it takes. Now that might be seen as cold for many, because I have a capacity with the human for a certain point, but when the human knows who they are, I get really annoyed. If you're not walking your path, then give your path up to someone who will. That's where I go, okay, I've helped you so much. I'm so unconditionally loving. And this has happened as a repetitive pattern in my life experience because I'm pretty devoted, pretty relentless, and I can be a very uncomfortable human being to be in physical presence with because I'm always speaking the truth. If you don't want to be around the truth, you probably don't want to be around me. And that's very triggering, activating, and can be destabilizing to the separate mind, the ego, and the shadow. So with that, that is my personal choice point, and it is today, and I need to make a very clear choice on the guidance of God for the entire human race. This is not about me. This is not about my daughter. This is not about my partner. This is about the entire creation space. And I will do whatever is asked of me at the point that it's asked. And any human feelings have to be alchemized, and perhaps that is the path that is required. So for any of you that I have done or walked this path with, where I've stepped out when you felt like you needed it, was because of this exact awareness. My service to the entire human collective is greater than the service to one or self in that form. All right, my loves, I appreciate you so very much. Thank you for receiving this extremely long transmission. Please like, subscribe. If you would like to join our direct channeling sessions, we have Wednesday mornings, Australian time at 5 a.m., which is the best conversion for our global community, which I think is 9 UK, 9 p.m. On Tuesday nights, and sometime on Tuesday afternoon in the US. So that is direct channel, which gives DNA upgrades, frequency, and will also help me to anchor. So if you want to come join us in our community where there's a lot of transmissions, it will be relaunched as the Quantum Remembering Vault. As well as you will see me more on YouTube for moments like this to support all beings, and for a little bit of service to self. What do we have available? I am working with people one-on-one, which is something that has come back in. So I'm doing direct channeling sessions. Direct channeling session where you bring whatever questions you want to ask infinite intelligence, go into the direct 0-point answer, communicate, recalibrate, bring in those frequencies and light. You could say it's like a super duper advanced psychic reading. With quantum recalibration. So if you've got some very powerful questions that you want to know about your trajectory, this is accessing the Alexander Library, the Akashic Records, the entire quantum field, your blueprint, your cellular structure. That is something that I am doing. I also do the modality that I created and founded is the DAC process. So I'm doing one-on-ones for 30 minutes. These sessions, please, 30 minutes, I promise you can quantum leap out of one reality into a new, and working on one core wound or one core creation point and transforming. So if you would like to work with me one-on-one, please check the links in my link tree to find my email and contact me directly, or you can contact me on social media if you follow me. Other than that, I love you so much. I do love you, but I also love the greater good of all beings more than the singular because it's all encompassing. Like sometimes I paint myself to be so cold in my mission, but I'm just very mission focused. So I love you, and I look forward to our next chats.